Hello, everybody. This is Miloš Krajčnik with Canuck News. Today is Wednesday, November 26th. Today I'm going to take a deep dive into more military procurement. Why Canada's kind of falling behind in a bunch of areas. This one is particularly interesting to me because this is kind of really what I've been pushing that Canada needs to be a major player in is submarines, right? Naval power. This is really where Canada can actually differentiate itself, especially if it manufactured submarines on its own. Obviously, with submarine manufacturing, you also have to start developing torpedoes and other types of missiles, armaments for the actual subs. So there's a whole value chain that exists with developing good military hardware. And there's a number of things that I want to touch on here because this is actually quite similar to the F-35, the Gripen plane situation. There was actually another article that I read this morning that really just pissed me off, that I wanted to talk about, but I'll talk about it tomorrow just because in yesterday's episode I did say that I was going to be talking military procurement today. So jumping into it, we're now talking about acquiring Norwegian submarines, right? And so as you can see, CTV News, an interesting thing here is CTV News was the only news source that actually had a story on this, which is boggles my mind, honestly. But they were the only ones that actually had an actual article covering the story. Just because I feel like this is just as big as the whole Gripen situation. Little different though, and we're going to get into it in a second. So it says, as the international competition for Canada's lucrative submarine contract heats up, a Norwegian defense company is trying to sell Ottawa on its alignment with an Arctic near neighbor. Kongsberg is supporting Germany's ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems, or TKMS, in its bid to win what would be a multi-billion-dollar contract to build Canada a new fleet of submarines capable of patrolling under the Arctic sea ice. So why, first of all, this in and of itself kind of just angers me, to be honest, because first of all, Norway, I don't know if you guys know how big Norway is. It's not that big of a country. Yeah, I got the population pulled up here. 5.6 million people live in Norway. It's not that big of a country. They have their own submarine manufacturing company. 5.6 million people. Canada doesn't have any military industrial complex does not exist in Canada outside of procuring foreign equipment, whether it's US or European or anything. That's sad. We have 40 million people. We have this massive land border. We have this massive ice sea border. Our maritime is just insanely big. And we have one of the smallest maritime fleet out of like in the like entire Western world. It's embarrassing, quite honestly. It's quite embarrassing. And I wanted to get into this because this is really what happens when you have a good military company. They can do joint ventures. So Kongsberg, obviously, Norway is not that big of a company. ThyssenKrupp is a massive company. And they did a joint venture for, as you can see, 50-50 joint venture for knowledge sharing, for actually building these systems out together. And so they're building a joint value chain so that they can actually produce these things faster, right? Which is key. Canada could have done something similar like that. We could have had a combination working with the US as well as let's say France. Why not? But that obviously didn't happen and isn't happening either. And so just to get into a little bit more here. So he says the Canadian press, he told the Canadian press, his firm has already poured a lot of effort into develop things like seabed surveillance technology that can operate in Arctic environments, and is in talks with Canadian companies about partnering in areas where Norway and Canada share strategic interests. This is key. This is a key part of how both TKMS and Kongsberg and their respective governments are pursuing the subcontract by presenting themselves as part of a group of nations and private companies building or operating the same subs and working in the same environments. Now, here's a very key thing. So, obviously, they want Canada because Canada is a massive, it's a big country. We need a lot of subs, and they just see this as a great opportunity for themselves. Now, here's the kicker. A bit. Ottawa's already been looking at buying South Korean subs. So now we have another kind of bidding war going on between this Norwegian German conglomerate and the South Korean company. Personally, if I had to choose between the two, I would go with the Norwegian German conglomerate, just because it seems like the safer bet. Not that I don't trust South Korean technology. It's just that when you look at the globe, Norway and Germany are actually closer to Ottawa. We can supply each other through the Arctic a lot faster and safer, because most of Europe all of Europe is essentially an ally of Canada. Where, when you go across the Pacific Ocean, you already have a lot of various types of competition. Obviously, you have Japan as an ally, South Korea as an ally, the Philippines. But you have China as a massive country. You have North Korea there as well. There's a lot more potential tension that's going to happen. Obviously, the main, let's say, competitor to the north, and I actually have a Google Earth here. The main competitor to the north is really Russia. So this is Russia's landmass here. You can see this is Norway and Germany, and we're right over here. To get to South Korea, we would have to, just on the other side of the globe. But yeah, so this is really why I would go with the Norwegian German conglomerate. What is key here, though, is that these subs are not nuclear subs. And if you guys recall, I actually talked about the nuclear submarine deal that happened, in which France was supposed to sell a bunch of nuclear subs to Australia, and the U.S. actually pulled the plug. So these subs that the Norwegians and the Germans make are not nuclear capable subs, right? So they're not powered by a nuclear reactor in the sub. And I'm going to get into what the differences are. Their subs are diesel and electric. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of the state of affairs of the Canadian, let's say, submarine class, we have four of these ancient, they're like 40 years old, Victoria class submarines. We have four on paper. One is actually operational. So we have the largest maritime border, and we have one submarine. Guys, that's embarrassing. That's such a catastrophe, And then when you actually look at the U.S., for instance, to a comparison, the U.S., all of their submarines are nuclear capable submarines, right? And they have 68 of them. They have 68. The UK has 10 nuclear submarines, right? This is a massive imbalance when you look at the size of our country, what we have to protect. We have one operational submarine, and it's not even a nuclear submarine. That is not good. That is not good, especially when your competitor to the north is really Russia. And Russia has 40 submarines Yeah, it's around 40 submarines, and I think around 30 of them are nuclear submarines. I actually have an article from Al Jazeera that we're going to get into, kind of breaks everything down quite nicely. But the other key difference between, let's say, Canada and Russia in kind of going head to head over the Arctic, because that's really what's at stake here, right? This is the Russian border. This is us. So this is all us right here, right? The Russians have 15 Arctic installations along their northern border. They have 15 bases. They have cities. They created Arctic cities to support these naval bases in case of any, to protect trade in case of any whatever that might happen in the north. So they're already getting ready for anything, right? Where I have never heard of anything that has gone in Yellowknife, White Horse or Iqaluit. I've never heard any news of any major infrastructure project or anything happening in the north, right, in Canada. That really just gives you a perspective of kind of the imbalance that really exists between Canada and Russia, and even the U.S. when you look at the level of importance that's given to such a strategic positioning that we have, right? And another key thing about this whole project here is there's going to be a massive contract, right? So here it goes. Ottawa is looking to buy a new fleet of 12 submarines, largely off the shelf from foreign suppliers, right? So two firms, South Korea's Hanwha Oceans and Germany's TKMS. And so 12 submarines, just to put that into perspective, the procurement cost is going to be around $15 to $25 billion. And then you also have the sustainment, the repairs and all that go behind it. So the actual investment over, let's say, a 30 to 40 year period is going to be between 40 to 60 billion dollars. So that's a lot of money that has to go into this, right? But again, the key thing here is that they are diesel electric, pardon me, subs. I'm going to get into this Al Jazeera article because it gives a good breakdown of the difference between a diesel electric and nuclear powered subs. And so this is an older article from 2021, and they actually get into the canceled deal that the U.S. pushed Australia to cancel. So Australia canceled a massive nuclear submarine deal. They were supposed to buy a bunch of French nuclear subs, and they ended up buying U.S. nuclear subs, right? So just to give a little digression, Australia has recently canceled a multi-billion-dollar order for diesel electric submarines from France in favor of nuclear-powered vessels from the United States and the United Kingdom, setting off an unprecedented diplomatic dispute between the allies. Canberra scrapped the $66 billion order on what? So it's a $66 billion order they scrapped to buy U.S. nuclear submarines. So, when you guys, and I know the comment section was going crazy for the Gripen deal, but if U.S. interests are going to be harmed, the U.S. is going to basically force you to procure whatever they want you to procure. And this is a key part of it here, right, is AUKUS. So AUKUS is a security alliance between Australia, the UK, and the US for nuclear technology, right? And in that is nuclear submarine technology, right? And Canada is not a part of this. So this is a key reason why Canada is forced to make a procurement of diesel electric submarines. There's nothing wrong per se with diesel electric submarines, but diesel submarines and nuclear submarines are used in different capacity. And this article really breaks it down. I'm going to skip over this part of the that deal. But here we go. So you have the diesel powered, so they require more frequent resurfacing, make them easier to detect, tend to be smaller, cheaper to run and maintain. Makes sense. You don't have a nuclear reactor. So they should be cheaper and it should be smaller because you don't have a nuclear reactor in the submarine. Can remain completely submerged for years with limiting detection, tend to be larger, require more expensive infrastructure and maintenance. And so here it kind of breaks it down real quick. Diesel electric submarines use electric motors charged by diesel engines to move. These engines require air and fuel to operate, which means they need to resurface more frequently, making them easier to detect. When running on electric mode, these submarines are much quieter than when the diesel engines are running. Nuclear powered run off steam generated by an onboard nuclear reactor that turns on the turbines. Having a source of power that runs for so long means that they can remain submerged for years, effectively limited only by the food and water supply of the crews. And one key thing regarding the use of these two different types of submarines is they actually work in pretty different ways, right? And so because nuclear subs can remain submerged for weeks or years, they can actually travel long distances, right, without resurfacing. Because diesel electric subs are constrained by battery life, they have to resurface, they have to recharge, and then they can resubmerge. So when you're looking at a mission in which you're going to be protecting these northern borders, right? And so resurfacing doesn't make a difference when you're Norway. You're right here. You're protecting your north, right? So this is as far as their submarine. Their submarines are going to leave, maybe 2,500 kilometers off of the coast of wherever they're going. Canada, if you're going from okay, here we go. If you're going from, let's say, BC here, say they're coming from Vancouver, you gotta go around. You gotta you're looking at least 7,000 kilometers from Vancouver, right? If you're going through, let's say, somewhere in Quebec, wherever these things would be placed, let's say they're moving out of the St. Lawrence. It's a bit of a shorter distance, about 1,000 kilometers, but it's still a pretty long distance. It's at least approximately 2 to 3 times a longer distance than what Norway is going to be traveling to protect that northern border, right? And so what Canada really needs is nuclear submarines to be able to patrol these long distances consistently, right? And so because of the way these things are set up, right, you're obviously going to have different mission types for the different types of submarines, right? So diesel electric subs, they're going to be better for like coastal defense, and this is exactly why Norway has them, because they don't have to travel long distances. They're staying close to their borders. They're staying within, let's say, 2,000, 2,500 kilometer distance from their border to protect their maritime waters, right? And so they can be extremely stealthy because of where they're operating, right? Canada, what it would have to do, this thing would have to like travel, let's say, hopefully get to Norway, refuel, do all of this, and then patrol its north, because we have no bases in the northern parts of Whitehorse, the Yukon, Northwest Territories, or Iqaluit, right? And so this is another reason why I believe, Donald Trump was really adamant on taking Greenland, because this is it's a strategic choke point for the Arctic, right? And so now we're being forced into buying these diesel electric submarines. But we actually need nuclear submarines, right? And we're not a part of this AUKUS strategic alliance that the UK and the UK, the US, and Australia are part of, right? So, what does this really mean for? And just so you guys know, I pulled this up here. AUKUS states advanced their partnership with the signing of a naval nuclear propulsion cooperation agreement and the easing of export controls on defense-related trade. So they've systematically lifted up controls on nuclear technology for propulsion systems for defense. And Canada is not a part of this, right? So it's the UK, the US, and Australia. But we need nuclear submarines. But we can't have them legally, right? Not at least US nuclear technology, right? And I wanted to scroll down here because this also brings a clear picture of what's actually going on with nuclear submarine technology, who's using them, how many of them they have. So the US, all of the US's submarines are nuclear. Why? Because the US has subs all around the world. They have subs patrolling everybody's waters, right? They're all over the place. The UK has 11. The UK, which is like 15 times smaller than Canada, has 11 nuclear submarines, guys. We have one diesel operating. It's embarrassing. Russia has 29 nuclear submarines with a total of 49. It makes sense for them to have a combination of the two, right? The French have 8. So the India has 1, but they have 16 in total. So you procure or you manufacture submarine technology that fits your needs. If you have strategic needs to patrol other people's maritime waters, you're going to want to have more nuclear submarines, or if they have to travel longer distances, right? And this is basically what you see. Why doesn't the UK have diesel generated submarines? Why? Because the UK has submarines just like the US all over the world. They're patrolling everywhere. They don't care. They literally don't care. So neither does the US. They basically function very jointly in sync with each other. And the Russians are trying to kind of counter all of this with their own stuff, right? Not going to get into this too much longer, but just to kind of give a bigger breakdown of what all of this looks like. And here we go. Canada has 4. 1 is operational. This is very embarrassing, guys. This is actually like North Korea has 71 submarines. This is North Korea. Look at North Korea. Look how small North Korea is. Look how tiny this country is. The country is tiny. It has 71. Sure, they're all diesel powered. Doesn't matter. It has 71 subs that are operational. Bro, they don't mess around with the defense of their country. Canada is like, what is this? Look how big our country is. Like this is actually embarrassing. What I want to show you guys though is because we're not able to procure nuclear powered submarines to protect our maritime waters, and because clearly we're not capable of manufacturing anything on our own, which I think we should be doing. I think this is exactly the place that Canada should specialize and be a leader in the world in maritime technology, whether submarine as well as any kind of other shipbuilding. I think Canada should be a hands down leader in the world because we have the energy to do it. We have our own energy resources, which are cheap. We have our own steel. We have our own aluminum. We have our own everything, essentially, for us to make amazing technology at home for us, by us, to support our own national defense. But what I want to show you, which would be a big FU to the US, which everybody in my comment section really wants to, stick one to the US. The best way that Canada could actually stick it to the US, because we've been excluded out of the AUKUS, is by buying French nuclear submarine technology. And the French have a lot of nuclear subs. And this is just a quick Google search, right? Why don't we buy French nuclear subs? Why is this not on the table? If our submarines are going to have to travel a distance of 8,000 kilometers, let's say, approximately, they make it to Europe to protect our maritime borders, maybe even to the Pacific to deter whomever, right? Because we also kind of border the Russians on the Pacific as well. Maybe to protect Japan in case of something. You never know. These are long distances. What are we going to do with a fleet of 12 diesel subs? They're going to have to be docked in Norway, essentially, for us to be able to protect our northern borders. You know what I mean? Like, the procurement doesn't make sense. This just seems like a waste of billions and billions of dollars. And I can't get over it. Like, honestly, this would be the biggest FU to the US. This right here, what you guys are looking at on the screen. Any one of these nuclear subs, having a couple of these French attack nuclear subs, nuclear ballistic missile submarines as well. This would actually, this type of a deal, if we had a $50 billion or a $66 billion deal like the French had going with the Australians, I can guarantee you the US would fast track Canada into AUKUS 100%. And if they didn't, they could do absolutely nothing about us procuring French nuclear technology. Absolutely, they would have put themselves in a nuclear legal bind. 100%. And this could have turned into a wider deal with the French. We could have started even manufacturing the stuff in Canada using French technology. Whole slew of things could have evolved from this, right? And honestly, why not have closer relations with the French? They're a big economy. They have a whole bunch of their own military hardware. Their manufacturing industry is robust. They have cars. They make planes. They make a whole bunch of things. They have skincare. They have very diversified economy. The French have. And what we're doing is our procurement process is shooting ourselves in the foot again, right? This is really all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. My name is Miloš Krajčnik. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay informed, stay curious, and God bless Canada.
This is Canada. Maple syrup and like Captain Say.